Hey, 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 you guys. Nikki Gangemi here. How are you? I'm trying this new contraption and I feel like it's super bright, so I'm going to turn down the light a little bit. How are you guys today? It is Transform Your Business Thursdays, and I'm really excited to share with you and have like an honest conversation, because sometimes we struggle staying motivated, right? I'm gonna raise both hands because I'm there too. Who else struggles staying motivated? And sometimes you feel like you don't feel like showing up, right? You don't feel like being consistent. Sometimes you don't want to put on the face, you don't want to put on the smile, and that's okay. It's something that needs to be acknowledged. And I'm going to share a pretty vulnerable story with you, and I thought, should I share this with my audience or not? I don't know, but I decided to just go ahead and share it because I always ask you guys to be vulnerable and share with what's going on with you. So I'm gonna do the same. But before we get started, for those of you who don't know me yet, I'm Nikki Gangemi, and I help online coaches shift their identity to thriving entrepreneur so they can make more money and impact doing what they love. So type in the comments and let me know. Do you relate? Hi Victory, thanks for being on the live. And if you're on the replay, you could say hi too, #replay. But sometimes do you get to that point where you just feel, like you're struggling to stay motivated? You're just not feeling like yourself, right? And how does this show up? Maybe you're sleeping in a little bit longer. Maybe you're hitting snooze a few more times. Maybe it takes you a little longer to get going in the morning, where you're just kind of dragging your feet, right? Maybe you get irritated by little things. So this was coming up for me a little while ago, and I didn't know what was going on. But we have that self-talk, right? Where we say to ourselves, come on, just, get moving. I was gonna say something, but I'm gonna watch my French and I'm not gonna say it, but it's like, kick your butt in gear, get moving. There's no reason for you to feel this way. You've got so much going on for you, and you have that like inner cheerleader going on, but at the same time, you've got that inner critic. And it's kind of like you got the good cop and the bad cop, one sitting on each shoulder, and they're both, in your ears, and it can be quite frustrating. But so recently I was struggling, right? And I'm going to be very honest with you, struggling to stay motivated, struggling to feel good and happy. And I was kind of just going through the motions and, consistently showing up because, I have to, but like there was a lot of having to struggle behind it, right? And I didn't let it be okay. And that's what I want to talk about today, is if what you experience that with, those feelings, is to do yourself a favor and let it be okay and acknowledge it. So going back to my story, I didn't know what was going on. I mean, I'm out of my day job, I'm fully in my business, I get to wake up when I want, make my own schedule, have that freedom, but yet I felt like crap. And I just didn't feel like doing anything. I wanted to sleep in. I wanted to go from, sleeping to the couch. And I'm like, what's wrong with me? I don't understand. I've got no reason to feel this way, but yet I did. And this went on for about 3 to 4 weeks. And I was like, I just can't figure it out. But I kept pushing and I kept going. And finally I said, you know what? I went for a walk in the park. I was like, this helps to get moving, to get out in nature. And I took an hour-long walk in the park one day, and I got back in my car, and I'm like, that didn't do it. I still feel annoyed, and people were aggravating me, and I couldn't tolerate the radio in the car, like little things like that. There was like, just kept triggering me, like I'd have to lower down the volume or quickly change the station because I was getting annoyed, and I didn't know why, because it's not like me to be like that. I was being a little snippy with family members, and I was like losing my patience, and I just couldn't figure it out. So I leave the park, I get in the car, and I'm like, something's up. Victory, was it initial info without the entire substance embraced? Was it initial info? I'm not sure I understand your question without the entire substance. I certainly wasn't embracing the negative. I was just kind of pushing myself through it, which is what I don't suggest you do, okay? So I get in the car and I'm asking myself, what's different? It's been 3 to 4 weeks, about 3.5 weeks that I'm feeling this way. What's different from 3.5 weeks ago when I was on cloud 9 and I was super happy and I was moving along in my business? What happened from then until now? And I thought, okay, only 2 things are different. Number 1, my brother had been staying with me because he sold his house and he bought a new house, and the new house wasn't ready for him to move in. So he moved in with me for about 4 weeks, and it was nice. I mean, I've been living alone for a really long time, years, and having somebody else, like a presence in the house, and you know, I would make dinner for the 2 of us, and he'd come home from work and we'd sit at the table and eat dinner, and it was nice, and have conversation, and just having somebody else home, like at night, it just felt really good. You know, rather than me just always being by myself and eating dinners in front of the TV in the living room. And I didn't realize when he left that it impacted me so much. But I said, that's one difference. My brother moved out. And the second thing is, my friend had challenged me to 100 days of fun, which I had told you about. I was a little uncomfortable at the concept of having fun for 100 days in a row. I thought that was too much, right? But when I thought about my brother moving out, I immediately got emotional. And I go, oh, that's it. That's it. Because, you know, when we are triggered emotionally, that is something to pay attention to. And what I realized was it brought up old feelings of abandonment. And he didn't abandon me, you know, consciously. I know that his new home was ready to move into, and he simply took his stuff and he moved into his new home. But it doesn't matter what I know consciously, because we mostly function unconsciously. It's that subconscious mind that's running the show, and we're just on autopilot. So I had been on autopilot for about 3.5 weeks, going right back to that time when that was my story, I felt abandoned. I was in a relationship for a year with a guy, and it was a little rocky, you know, but we were still together. And then he decided just to up and disappear one day. And when he said, I'll see you Sunday, Nick, Sunday never came. I called, I texted, I emailed. I never heard from him again. And at first, you know, I thought something horrible happened. I thought he died. I was checking the obituaries. I mean, I'm like, what happened to him? And I don't want to say his name, so let's call him Harry. Let's call him Harry Houdini, because he did the greatest disappearing act. I'm going to bring a little levity to this conversation. Harry disappeared. And first, I'm checking obituaries. What happened to him? How could, you know, I don't understand. You know, weeks later, come to find out he's alive, he's well. He just decided he was done and didn't tell me. So this was in my 20s. This was a long time ago, but I was beside myself. I mean, I had a really hard time getting over this because I just couldn't believe, I mean, the trust alone. You know, how do you just not end a relationship with somebody and just never show up again, right? You know, so many things were going through my mind, like how wrong that was, and how shitty is that? You know, how do you do something like that? So I put it to rest, right? And I moved on, you know, but what happened was when my brother left, subconsciously it triggered those old feelings of abandonment. And I didn't know it. I just knew that I was getting frustrated, that I had less patience, that music in the car was annoying me, that certain people's quirks were getting under my skin. I knew that I was tired and took a long time to get started in the morning, but I didn't know why. But what I realized was that old story, those thoughts that went along with that experience so many years ago, were playing in the back of my mind, and they're just so deep in my subconscious that I couldn't hear those thoughts. I couldn't hear them. And that's why I didn't know. And guess what? As soon as I realized what was going on, I immediately felt lighter. Those heavy feelings that I was carrying for 3.5 weeks lifted. Suddenly I could feel just my lips curve up, and it was like I felt lighter. And it's like, that's the first step. It's becoming aware of what you're feeling, becoming aware of those thoughts. And that's why that's such a big part of what I do in my work, is there's always the mindset piece. But what I learned is the answer is not to push through, to keep going, because you're kind of working against yourself. The thing is to notice when you're feeling like crap. Notice when you're having a lull in your energy, or you're just finding that you're frustrated or annoyed, or you're not feeling like you want to be consistent and you don't want to show up. And get curious and ask yourself, know that if you're feeling that way, there are thoughts that you're thinking that are causing you to feel that way. So just ask yourself, what am I thinking? And you're not always going to know what you're thinking. Like, I didn't even hear those thoughts. I had no idea that old program was running, which caused me to feel the same exact way as when I was left years ago. So get curious, and without being judgmental of yourself, And it's like, it makes me think of, do you remember Cheryl Strayed? She wrote the book Wild, and they made it into a movie. I think Reese Witherspoon played the role, but Cheryl Strayed, she decided to go on this long hike. She hiked the Pacific Crest Trail, and it was like thousands of miles. So she hiked this trail, and she had never been on a hiking trip like this, and she packed a backpack that was 65 pounds, and she carried this 65-pound backpack on her back. And, she'd pass hikers, and they would say, what are you doing? Like, you're hiking, you got to pack light. And she didn't know any better. And it caused her to like slouch over, and it was just really uncomfortable. But I equate our thoughts and those old stories to carrying around that 65-pound backpack on your back. So you push yourself to move forward, keep going, just muscle through it. But how productive are you? How creative can you be when you are carrying that 65-pound weight, so to speak, on your back? And that's the role that our thoughts and our stories play. So it was amazing, because things weren't happening the way I wanted them to for that time period when I was just feeling really low and just moving through things anyway. I would have been better off stopping, and so would you, and just deal with what are the thoughts, what are the stories, and clean that up. Because once you do, you take that backpack off, and it's so much lighter, and you can move more easily. You could make more progress, Think about, if you're hiking, how much further along, how many more steps, how many more miles can you get through in a day with no backpack, or with a really light one, as opposed to that heavy one. So pay attention, you guys, pay attention to how you feel, the emotions that you're feeling, how you feel in your body. And if it's not good, then just get quiet. Go within. You can put your hands over your heart if you want. Just have that like connection, the mind-body connection, and just breathe, and just ask yourself, what's different, what's coming up, and just, and see what comes to you. But that's really going to help to transform your business, because I'm going to say that our biggest barrier to success is us. It's our thoughts, and it's our stories that we have about business. It's our thoughts that we have about success, fear of success. It's our thoughts that we have about failure, our thoughts that we have about money. That's what's in the way, because there's plenty of people out there that are killing it. They're crushing it, right? And what's the difference? It's not that they're better than you. It's got nothing to do. It's not that they know more than you, because you know what? There's so much information out there, right? There's so much support. There's so much help. I believe, and this is just my stance, and this is what I believe in, that it is your thoughts and your stories. And once you start to change the way you think and what you tell yourself, you start to feel better. You start to show up better, right? You have more energy, you can think more clearly, you've got more ideas, you're more creative, and then you get into that momentum, right? And that flow. And that's where things just open up. That's where people just kind of, call you or message you out of the blue, and you've got an opportunity here and there, and that's your ticket to success. So thanks for listening to my story. I hope that this helped you in some way. Feel free to post any comments, even if you watch the replay, any questions that you have. But when you're in that struggle of just like you can't stay motivated, just stop. Just pause and get curious and go tune in. Because you know so much more than you think you do. You don't have to look outside for the answers. You've got them all in here. And once you can acknowledge how you feel, validate how you feel, and make peace with the thoughts and the stories that are coming up. And we're not going to get into changing them. That's a whole nother live. That's what I teach. But that's when you can pivot, and you can start to walk towards what you want and start getting the results that you want. So have a fabulous day, everybody. Enjoy your Thursday, and I will see you all soon in the group. Bye-bye for now.